To be a top star in wrestling, it's not enough to be holding a championship title belt. Only the fans can decide who is, or is not, a real champion. This became a significant challenge for Roman Reigns. WWE officials tried to turn him into the next John Cena, but the audience wasn't on board.
They thought, oh, this is the guy they want us to cheer, but we're not ready to cheer him.
Roman Reigns' rise was relentless. Higher-ups stubbornly neglected their own audience. Negative crowd reactions were edited and replaced with fake cheers. And it didn't stop there. Security confiscated anti-Reigns signs at the arena gate. It turned into a battle. World Wrestling Entertainment fighting their own fans.
They booed me louder than I've ever heard before. It hurt my feelings.
Roman Reigns, whose real name is Joe Anoa'i, stood steady as a rock. On the surface, he acted as if it didn't affect him. But he later admitted that this lack of acknowledgement took a toll on his mental health.
I've almost built this defense mechanism, built walls up to protect myself, and they got stripped down.
But then, everything changed. Roman Reigns managed to turn things around, though the way he achieved this remains a topic of debate.
But I would have to learn how to be an asshole sometimes.
Today, fans have come to accept Roman Reigns at the pinnacle of pro wrestling. We explore the background of his unpopular ascent. We look at his personal life, his past as a box cutter in a furniture company, and the numerous scandals the WWE tried to sweep under the rug.
Acknowledge me!
This is his controversial and ruthless journey to the top.
I'm just a young man addicted to greatness.
He enters the ring like a king, claiming his kingdom. No hesitation, no doubt, just sheer confidence. The name echoes through arenas. Wrestling is more than just his profession, it's his birthright. He carries more than title gold. He carries a legacy that weighs heavy on his shoulders. It is a legacy of pride. Reigns fights for his family, for respect, from his father, his uncle, and his cousins. The blood of Roman Reigns runs through the most powerful family in wrestling, the Anoa'i.
Throughout the 1970s and the 1980s, there was no tag team on the face of the planet that held as many tag team championships as Afa and Sika, the Wild Samoans. And one night, Sika came into the locker room with his 3-year-old son, Roman Reigns. You could just tell the charisma of this 3-year-old.
Joe, a boy who grew up in the heat of Florida, surrounded by legends. While other kids played in the street, he watched as family heroes fell down and got back up again. The corner of the wrestling ring was his playground.
It was fun, always exciting. We grew up with a wrestling ring in our backyard because, of course, my dad's a wrestler.
Every rope in that makeshift ring was a promise he would one day fulfill. While others watched his family wrestle on TV, he sat down at the kitchen table with them. In interviews, Joe reminisces about wild barbecue parties. Tons of meat. A family of giants. Afa and Sika, Yokozuna, Umaga, The Rock, Rikishi. Joe shared a special bond with Rikishi, the father of the Usos and Solo Sikoa, who guided him through his childhood. He was there at the boys' baseball games long before anyone had the chance to dream of their future success.
Wonderful family moment occurred. So Joe steps in the plate. Rikishi suddenly blares out, "Joe, I'll give you $100 if you hit that bam." And the ball caroms off the flagpole and lands about 30 yards into another field, and they had to stop the game. And yes, Rikishi paid the debt.
Athletic achievement was Joe's way of earning his family's recognition. With every victory, he could capture an inch of his father's heart. The struggle for acknowledgement didn't begin in the ring, it started long before that. Reigns' father wrestled with his own demons, drugs, and an addiction to the spotlight, neglecting his son in the shadow of fame.
It's my fault because I've been on the road all these years, and he's been by himself and his mom and his sisters. I can't help that. I gotta get out there and I gotta work.
My dad was a hard man. He's tough because he had to be.
Joe's father, Sika, wasn't a family man. He had always been distant. As a result, the family began to unravel.
Years later, my parents separated, eventually divorced, but to be honest, even if they were still together, that life chose him. The road chose him, as it chose me.
Before Reigns stepped foot into the ring, he ran the defensive line of Georgia Tech's college football team. This was his first battleground where he built strength, toughness, and discipline. He was considered a standout talent. His athletic achievement had earned him a full scholarship. College life revolved around intense training, nights out at the bar, and dating. It was there that he met his future wife, fitness model Galina Becker. What Joe didn't know was that his life was teetering on the edge of a dark abyss. He played football undeterred, making it into the NFL with teams like the Minnesota Vikings and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But during a training drill, he sensed that something was off.
As I was walking out, there were two trainers there to pretty much intercept me. So that's where we went into the rabbit hole to find out the diagnosis of CML. Which is a form of leukemia, which is cancer of the blood.
The cancer diagnosis knocked Joe off his feet. Suddenly, he was no longer the rising NFL star, but a man fighting for his life. What followed were months of treatment, chemotherapy, and constant uncertainty. The diagnosis that many saw as the end became a turning point for him. He beat the illness, but in the process, lost his sense of direction in life. The dream of a football career shattered. Joe began working at his sister's company.
Her business at the time was called Proactive Installations. It was an office furniture installation company.
At that time, Jimmy and Jey Uso were also involved in the family business. The three spent a lot of time together outside of work. But then the Usos launched their wrestling careers with WWE, leaving Joe feeling lost. That's when his father visited him at work and mocked him.
And my dad walked in and laughed at me. He just asked me, "You gonna build chairs for your sister your whole life?" Then he asked me, "When are you ever gonna wanna wrestle?" I told him, I'm ready.
Joe stepped into the world of wrestling as a natural talent. He quickly caught the eye of his trainer in the developmental brand FCW. Dusty Rhodes saw more in him than just a good wrestler.
First time I seen him walk in a developmental system building, I said Roman Reigns will be a huge star.
Roman Reigns had the it factor. Word spread quickly backstage that he could be a future main eventer. Vince McMahon didn't usually pay any mind to news from FCW, but Reigns was different.
If Vince could go into a laboratory and just dial up exactly what a WWE superstar looks like, that's Roman Reigns.
Everyone agreed. He might just be the next face of the company.
The great ones have that it factor, and Roman Reigns has that it factor. The whole package.
You know that he's going to be a star. I saw all those qualities from that guy that's going to carry the company forward.
Wrestling came easily to him. This phenomenon is common among second and third generation athletes. They learn quickly and have a natural intuition in the ring.
And somebody's got wrestling in their blood, that's hard to change the course of their life. I mean, it is part of him. It just seems so natural to him. He makes everything his own.
For 2 years, Reigns honed his craft. In the summer of 2012, he made it to the main roster, touring with the stars of Raw and SmackDown and getting to know them backstage. Competing as Roman Liaki, he wrestled at untelevised events across America. Fans in attendance saw him slipping on the ramp and taking the wrong exit from the arena. His promos were unconvincing, as was his acting. Joe faced a lot of challenges outside the ring, but when it came to wrestling, he had always been a cut above the rest. In the winter of 2012, destiny fast approached in the shape of a destructive trio.
Sierra, Hotel, India.
Echo, Lima, Delta, Shield.
They didn't come in the front door. They crept through the shadows, weaving between cheering fans in roaring arenas. 3 men dressed in black, like harbingers of a new order, the Shield. It wasn't a debut filled with fireworks or grand speeches. It was a storm that began quietly and quickly swept everything away. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, 3 names that would soon be on everyone's lips. Their mission was justice, but their brand of justice was ruthless. Like wolves, they hunted in a pack. They worked well together in front of the cameras and also backstage. They formed a brotherhood.
He was an extremely good listener, picked up on things extremely quickly, and had a humility about him when it came to learning.
The Shield was successful, but not everything went according to plan. Behind the scenes, the trio was unpopular. Roman Reigns found himself in a real conflict with Randy Orton. After a botched move during a live event, they clashed backstage and started yelling at each other. A heated argument erupted as they blamed one another for the dangerous mishap. The conflict was severe enough that Vince McMahon reportedly considered punishing the Shield by halting their push. However, Triple H convinced him otherwise, as reported by the Wrestling Observer. Seth Rollins betrayed his brothers and broke up the Shield. As a result, Reigns found himself on his own, a situation that he wasn't comfortable with because it exposed his weaknesses outside of wrestling.
I didn't want to break up the Shield. And I definitely didn't want to be a good guy. And that's exactly what was happening.
He was subtly being positioned as the guy who was going to come out of the group and be the biggest star.
Every week, Reigns had to take the microphone and embody a bland comic book character with childish humor.
Roman was the cool, silent muscle of the group. And once he broke away from the Shield, suddenly he wasn't so silent. And a lot of things that he was doing weren't so cool.
You are a sniveling little suck-up sellout full of suffering succotash, son!
The creative team wrote him promos filled with silly insults. Joe felt out of place in that role.
It's not like I had a whole bunch of options that I could just say, no, I'm not feeling this. This doesn't feel good to me, or I wouldn't say this. So you have to just be a good soldier and do what you're told.
Joe didn't want to be Roman Reigns, at least not this version of him. He wasn't being true to himself. Yet the powers that be were determined to push him. He won one of the biggest matches of the year, the Royal Rumble. It was a massive success, but the fans hated it. That night turned into a debacle.
You think of these moments. You dream about them. And the moment that it actually happens, it's like they're playing the worst soundtrack of all time over your moment, ruining your party.
The bosses tried to calm the negative reactions and sent out the absolute crowd favorite, The Rock. But the boos kept pouring down like heavy rain. His mother watched it all unfold and was shocked.
Then I realized they were booing him. And it hurt my feelings, you know? I'm like, he just did great.
But it wasn't just Joe's mother who felt hurt by the fans' rejection. Reigns later admitted in interviews that he felt the same way. He was frustrated. Every step he took echoed back a chorus of boos.
Way to keep your cool. Yeah. You can't fall this city is wrong. Yep. You did a really good job. I'm proud of you.
Being rejected by the crowd, Reigns started to doubt himself. His first instinct was to pretend it didn't bother him.
What do you have to say to your haters?
Carry on.
But time and again, it became clear that the hate affected Joe. In a controversial interview, he attributed the negative fan reactions to jealousy over his great success. This only made him seem less relatable to fans. His arrogance served as a protective shield, hiding frustration and self-doubt underneath. But where did the fans' hatred for Roman Reigns come from?
There might have been a bit of a backlash from fans because they thought, oh, you're forcing our hand on how you want us to feel about this guy, and we're going to revolt.
The WWE fans weren't having it. They wanted nothing to do with it.
Critics argued that the company was pushing Reigns too hard, at the expense of other talents. Fans felt they were being told who to cheer for as the next top guy, like they had no say in the matter.
We were trying to force Roman Reigns to be a star. Roman had all the attributes of being a star. Athletic, in shape, tremendous in-ring worker. Roman was incredible at all that. But our WWE fans want stars to be made organically.
Another reason for Reigns' unpopularity was his character. Many fans found him inauthentic. Then all of a sudden, his eyes seemed to glow an unnatural blue. This deliberate change in style was meant to enhance his appearance and give him a more distinctive, perhaps exotic look, aimed at increasing his appeal to the audience by making him look unique. But most fans rejected this approach. Many veterans advised Reigns to just be himself. However, he didn't see himself as interesting enough. In his eyes, he wasn't worthy of the fans' cheers. Roman Reigns might not have been well received, but Joe was definitely not exciting enough to convince the fans either. At least that's what his self-doubts were telling him.
Roman was confused. He couldn't find his true identity. He went through the fire. He got scarred and charred by the fire, and he learned. Roman can't be something he's not. He is who he is.
WWE found itself in an unusual battle, not in a match against a rival in the ring, but in a battle against the voices of their own fans. With all their might, they tried to mold Roman Reigns into a shining hero, only for the crowd to flip the script. Anti-Reigns signs vanished as if by magic, confiscated by security at the arena gate. Their message censored. The boos rang loud and clear in the arenas, but were removed from broadcasts, replaced with artificial cheers, like emptiness in an echo chamber. On social media, videos of the actual fan reactions went viral, leading to an uproar among viewers who refused to be fooled. A struggle ensued, not for titles but for authenticity, and at its center stood Reigns, and the harsh fact that he was not accepted.
You know, there's always that period of time when you first come in that you have to figure things out. And initially, things don't always work out the way they're supposed to.
March 29th, 2015, Santa Clara, California. Joe stands alone in an empty stadium with his opponent for the day, champion Brock Lesnar, some distance away. Brock is joking with Vince McMahon like this main event was just another day at the office. But when it comes to planning the match ahead, Brock plays the silent type. We'll figure it out in the ring. That's all he has to say. No strategy and no rehearsals. An hour later, Joe approaches Lesnar and says, "Ready? I'm here." Lesnar just grins and replies, "Good," before walking away.
I'm not a superstar. I'm an ass kicker. That's it.
Any guy who becomes the guy at some point has to walk through hell in some match that gives them the credibility with the fans. You know, you can push a guy, you can put him in the main event. That doesn't mean he's the guy. Roman had to walk through hell.
and that was with Brock Lesnar.
The greatest rival of Roman Reigns' career, Brock Lesnar, carries the nickname The Beast. And for him, it's not just a marketing tagline for t-shirt sales, it's pure reality.
Brock has just a completely different aura to him. With Brock, you're about to be in a really physical match.
Reigns mentioned in an interview that it was tough working with Lesnar. His Shield teammates Rollins and Ambrose shared similar sentiments.
I don't respect you, but you will.
Joe entered the ring for a fight against a former UFC champion without much discussion beforehand. It turned into a brawl, extremely stiff, always safe and without the intent to injure, but filled with painful strikes and brutal bumps.
There was just something about him and his aura and everything that he was doing that just made him different and unpredictable. We're just gonna go out there and be violent.
Lesnar hit hard, but there's a rule in wrestling. No matter how much your opponent lays into his punches, you strike back just as hard. It's called a receipt. Receipts are given when someone takes it too far. But the violence between Reigns and Lesnar only escalated further. Lesnar's slaps had no work in it whatsoever.
When you're in the ring with Brock, if there's any softness about you, it's gonna be exposed real quick.
The flow of the match unfolded organically. Only Rollins' interference was planned. Reigns' former Shield partner cashed in his Money in the Bank contract to win the title. Backstage, Joe's father lost it. He had been looking forward to celebrating with his son as the new champion. But instead, it turned into a tearful evening. Joe was overwhelmed with emotion, but his performance in the ring was the best of his career. He had earned the respect of his fellow wrestlers backstage.
It was the perfect matchup with the perfect guy. And I thought Roman was just excellent.
The fans were thrilled with the match, but many were glad that Reigns didn't leave as champion. The boos continued, and Reigns took them personally. Time and again, he fought against loud "what" chants that interrupted his promos. In the following WrestleManias, Reigns found himself in major matches again, often against the wishes of the fan base.
Roman Reigns is back in the main event at WrestleMania.
At WrestleMania 32, he defeated Triple H for the title. Once again, the beauty of the moment was drowned out by a chorus of boos. The following year, he faced The Undertaker. The match disappointed both Reigns and Taker, who were dissatisfied with their performance. The next day on Raw, fans made it clear that they didn't accept him, that he wasn't their guy. Reigns was cut off by some of the loudest boos in wrestling history. He tried to go on but got cut off. Again and again. The next year brought another big main event, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, Part 2.
Oh, there was a lot of tension going into WrestleMania 34. Brock with UFC calling, beckoning for his return.
It comes down to that in the locker room as well. Like, is Brock gonna win the title and then just disappear for 6 months? Is he gonna be a part-time guy that wants to go UFC fights?
The fans despised the match that was supposed to be the biggest match of the year. Some played beach ball while others left the arena, with the match still going on.
That might have been one of the most critical days of my career.
Lesnar managed to come out on top, but fan reactions drove him to fury. He was livid that Vince McMahon hadn't succeeded in establishing Reigns since their last encounter. The fans' lack of interest shocked him. Various backstage accounts described an enraged Lesnar, totally exasperated. There were also reports of tension between Reigns and Lesnar after the match. However, exact details of the incident between Lesnar and Reigns were never fully disclosed.
I'm not gonna stop until I've earned that respect.
Reigns also butted heads with John Cena. During one promo, he stumbled over his words and forgot his lines. Cena ruthlessly capitalized on it.
Go ahead, find it. Go ahead. Oh, wait. It's called a promo, kid.
Shut your
And
mouth,
if you want to
John.
be the big dog, you're going to have to learn how to do it. So go ahead.
Cena once again demonstrated to the audience that Reigns had a long way to go towards replacing him. Cena had been skeptical for a long time about whether Reigns could establish himself in the long run, but he consistently supported him. Then dark headlines began to surface. A report from the New York Times threatened to tarnish Reigns' reputation significantly. The journalist referenced Anthony the Teflon Don Bompierre, a drug dealer with connections to wrestlers, including Roman Reigns. Investigations were underway regarding illegal substances, among them steroids. Another steroid dealer named Richard Rodriguez claimed that Reigns was one of his clients. However, Reigns denied these allegations, publicly stating that he had never used illegal substances. WWE also chimed in, asserting that Reigns had never tested positive for doping, but that wasn't the case. Reigns had already been suspended for 30 days in 2016 due to a violation of the wellness policy. A second violation would have resulted in a 60-day suspension, causing Reigns to miss important events, a risk the WWE couldn't afford, so they skillfully helped keep the scandal under wraps. The investigations dragged on, leaving many questions unanswered and concrete evidence lacking. Not long after, Roman Reigns was back in the headlines, this time for something far more serious. At a live event, WWE doctors called Reigns in. They told him that something was wrong. As he walked through the door and saw the concerned faces around him, he realized the situation was serious.
When I got there, I could tell the whole crew was in there, and they broke the news that, my white blood cell count was obviously elevated. They kind of already knew what was going on.
The cancer had returned. At Raw, Reigns stepped in front of the cameras. He took the microphone with a grave expression, bearing a weight heavier than any championship belt he had ever held.
My real name is Joe, and I've been living with leukemia for 11 years. And unfortunately, it's back.
This was more than just a diagnosis. It was the moment a hero laid down his armor and revealed a part of his humanity. For the first time, no one in the arena booed him. The reason wasn't just deep sympathy or shock. It was that the audience finally saw the real Roman Reigns, Joe Anoa'i, and everyone rallied behind him. Suddenly, in this fight, they were all on his side.
Oh, nobody died. Come on.
Joe fell into a mental crisis, grateful for each day, but filled with worry.
I hate it when people, how are you? How you doing? You feeling okay? I've almost built this defense mechanism and built walls up to protect myself.
It was a dark winter filled with dark thoughts, but Reigns drew strength from his family and his faith.
As long as God wakes me up, I feel like I can handle the rest.
On February 25th, 2019, Reigns stood in the center of the ring once more, not as a distant warrior, but as an approachable survivor. And he had news to share.
I'm in remission, y'all.
A sigh of sympathy and relief filled the arena as Reigns visibly fought back tears. The oral therapy with pills had worked.
People say it all the time. Why aren't there any medications? Why don't we have any cures? We do. We're just not talking about it as much. We're not celebrating the wins in this process. Right now, an oral chemotherapy is a huge win for people, and I'm one of them.
Roman Reigns increasingly established himself as the top guy in the company, both in front of the camera and behind the scenes. He was extremely popular among the roster and exuded leadership capability.
The ones that are the most successful on all levels, not just box office or ticket sales or viewership, are the ones that have that innate ability to lead. Roman Reigns covers the leadership role in a way that is this quiet steadiness, this assuredness.
However, as a leader behind the scenes, he inevitably faced conflicts. One notable clash was with Enzo Amore, a man who was the complete opposite of Roman: small, slender, and loud. Enzo was a brash personality who often crossed the line of what was tolerated backstage. He stirred up trouble in the locker room. Loud and disrespectful, he became a disruptive force in WWE's well-oiled machine. One day, he went too far. During a bus ride on tour, colleagues recount, Enzo was too loud and self-absorbed. Reigns stood up. With just a look and a few words, he made it clear that Enzo had to go. He had to find his own way to get to the show. Shortly after, he was released. There was criticism of Roman Reigns' somewhat exclusionary leadership style, but it earned him respect. Reigns did all this in memory of his brother Matt, who sadly passed away in 2017. Matt was also a wrestler, but never quite made it big. Just before his death, he gave Roman some important advice.
And he told me if I ever want to be the top guy, if I ever want to be the main event or the face of this company, that I would have to learn how to be an ass sometimes. But it took a while for me to understand that.
Reigns also got into a conflict with Matt Riddle. Riddle, a free-spirited fighter who was laid back but not always tactful, rarely held back his opinions. He spoke out loud what many were thinking and often went too far. Riddle dared to criticize Reigns publicly. His words didn't just scratch the surface. They questioned the very core of Reigns' position. He claimed he could beat Reigns in a real fight and that Reigns wasn't worthy of being a top guy. Fans didn't want to see him. Backstage tensions ran high. It wasn't an open feud or a brawl in the hallway, but everyone knew that things were heated between them. For Riddle, it served as a warning. Not every path leads to success. A short time later, he had to pack his bags and leave. Reigns even found himself at odds with a close friend. Shield teammate Dean Ambrose left WWE and joined All Elite Wrestling. Then he sat down for a podcast with Chris Jericho and vented about the issues at the other company.
I can't believe that. Can we not just write one good storyline? Can we not write one good promo? Does everything have to be fucking stupid? Does everything have to make me look like an idiot? Like, for fuck's sake.
In this interview, he expressed all his frustration and bitterness, a move that didn't sit well with Reigns at all. Roman identified strongly with the company. His big break and full bank account were all thanks to WWE. At this time, he was the undisputed face of the company, but in 2020, he had to step back. The COVID-19 pandemic emptied arenas across the country. Due to his health issues in the past, Joe kept his distance from others and did not appear for the shows. Reigns retreated to his home with his family in Tampa, Florida. It wasn't until several months later, at SummerSlam, that he made his comeback. He won the Universal Championship, the prestigious title he would hold for a very long time. The key to his success was a cohesive character, one he could truly identify with.
He kind of made himself into what he thought he should have been this whole time, and that obviously worked.
We learned the most from failure, and Roman had his share of knocks, and finally it's just like, I'm doing it my own way. And it has been a wrap ever since. It has been drop mic conversation over. There's nobody like him. He should be compared only to himself.
Above all else, it is a wrestler's role that determines whether fans love or hate them. Roman Reigns grew into the character he had always wanted to be.
Now the whole world can acknowledge me.
The tribal chief, a man of power and authority, who bends the rules to defend family pride.
My whole life, I wanted to be somebody significant. I wanted to be a man of influence. But little did I know it was going to be through connecting into the skin of the tribal chief. I didn't realize that that's what I was after my entire life.
Yet the tribal chief on television isn't entirely who he is. There's a distinction.
Roman's not a people pleaser. He doesn't give what anybody thinks about him. He can't, because that's always been the thing that's let him down. That's the difference between Joe and Roman, is I've taken one side of Joe and I've completely magnified it, spotlighted it. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He'll do whatever he has to do to be the very best.
Sometimes the bad guys win.
An old saying in wrestling goes, the best character is just the real person turned up to 200%. Roman Reigns achieved what had long been overdue, a credible character.
Everything has purpose, and that comes with knowing what your character is. You're trying to capture people's imagination. That's what you do. They have to believe in you, and people believe in Roman. Whether they like him, they don't like him, they believe in him.
The ultimate goal in wrestling is to tell compelling stories. Great stories are built on strong characters. The tribal chief, Roman Reigns, spearheaded a revolutionary storyline, the Bloodline feud. It was an epic drama centered around family unity, brutal power struggles, and betrayal. Alongside Roman was Paul Heyman. When Lesnar was uncertain about re-signing, Heyman found himself in limbo. He still had his backstage role, but no on-screen character to stand behind. The only person he wanted to work with was Roman Reigns, as Joe explained in his interview with Logan Paul.
He went from the big dog to the tribal chief. He went from being the best of this generation to the greatest of all time. Just like that.
As the ruler, Reigns had Heyman as his strategic advisor and was flanked by his brothers Jimmy and Jey Uso. Then the outsider Sami Zayn joined the mix.
Here's this really fun character interacting with this really serious character. He's just not himself right now, that's it, okay? Lately, he just hasn't been very Usi.
The story escalated when loyalty within the bloodline began to fracture. Fans were on the edge of their seats, many praising it as cinematic storytelling in the wrestling ring.
The tribal chief said he wants peace. Man, I don't give a damn what the tribal chief said.
What I feel like people have been begging for a long time, long-term storytelling. And that's a testament to the entire bloodline. Myself, Wise Man, Usos, Solo, and Sami.
Roman Reigns crafted one of the best storylines in wrestling history. The audience was eager to see what would happen next. Reactions in the arenas were deafening, and the ratings for Bloodline segments soared. On camera, the Usos became his bitter enemies, but backstage, their friendship grew deeper than ever before. Joe was always there for them. In every emotional low, every marital issue, and every relapse, he listened to them and tried to help them. Jimmy and Jey had been caught driving under the influence multiple times. Yet in a time filled with judgment and scandalous headlines, Joe stood by their side.
He just always checks on me, always checks on my brothers, mentally. How y'all doing? Always tapping in when I really need him.
Man, I love Books for that, So, my hat goes off to him, man. He's so blessed I get to do this for him. Talk about this kind of stuff. Damn, I didn't even know I was gonna get emotional, man. But I love him, man.
I think it's very fair to say that Roman Reigns is the most cinematic portrayal of what a champion is in the history of sports entertainment.
Roman Reigns will go down in history as the greatest wrestler of his generation. His title reign lasted 1,316 days, over 4 years, unmatched since the Golden Era. During this time, Reigns grew into a worthy top guy, and all the statistics back him up.
This business is a lot of opinion. I'm a guy who likes data points. The business is the absolute best it's ever been. He is leading in merchandise revenue sales. He is selling out arenas at a pace that could only be rivaled in the Attitude Era.
Every marked indicator for Roman Reigns is through the roof. It's not egotistical to say it's something special. It's accurate.
From the very beginning, my dad always taught me that when you come around this ring, it's only about drawing money.
At WrestleMania 40, Cody Rhodes defeated Roman Reigns for the title in another cinematic classic. The fans loved it. Many said it was the match of the year. The Bloodline feud continued. Roman Reigns triumphed over Solo in the first Raw episode on Netflix. Once again, The Rock came out to celebrate with him, just like at the Royal Rumble 10 years prior. But this time, the fans stood firmly behind their tribal chief. They raise their fingers to show they respect him. They celebrate him. They acknowledge him. The story of Roman Reigns is anything but polished. He's a boy who grew up in the shadow of wrestling legends, believing he could never measure up to them. He's a man who feels he isn't worthy of cheers, forcing himself into roles and pretending to be someone he's not, only to face rejection in his self-loathing. He's a fighter who endures hate, frustration, and self-doubt. He's a leader who doesn't hide his rough edges and stops trying to please everyone. He's an entertainer who learns to captivate and excite the masses. He's a champion who wins battle after battle, including those against health issues. He's a warrior who has found peace within himself. He enters the ring like a king claiming his kingdom. No hesitation, no doubt, just sheer confidence.
I think he has all the tools to become as big as he wants to be. He's got star written all over him.
When this all first started with Roman, he was a young man. You just know when somebody has it, and I think he's a special talent.
I hope there's a few more folks out there that can realize that Roman Reigns is a very unique individual. There's never been a performer like him. Roman Reigns as the tribal chief is the greatest of all time.
He's a good-looking lad. He has presence, Ben. I think when you combine all of those elements together, you see his star, like somebody that isn't going to blend in with the rest of the crowd, you know?
He finally figured it out, and now you have a guy who's completely comfortable with who he is, and he's comfortable being the face of the company.
Acknowledge me.